Hey, what's up? Welcome to part 5 of making a Bing bot. And in this episode, we're going to add functionality to use multiple accounts. To do this, we're going to create functions out of our code. So, what are functions and why functions? By creating functions, we can do the same thing more than once without having to write duplicate code. So, for instance, instead of having to copy and paste this sign-in code every single time we need to sign in, we can just have one set of code that acts like a template that can sign in as long as you give it an email and a password to sign in with. So, like if you've ever played with Mad Libs before, it's a lot like that. A lot of the story is already written out, so the same Mad Lib will always sound similar and have a similar plot, but you get a different story every time because you get to choose your own adjectives and nouns. So let's see how this ties into what we're doing. Um, I've heard of some users who own something like 400 Bing accounts. So if we need to sign into 400 accounts, it might not make sense to copy and paste the sign-in code 400 times. So the best thing to do is to make a sign-in function that we can use to recycle our code. And when we sign in, there are some things in our template that need to remain the same and some things in our template that we want to be configurable. So let me show you what I mean. Um, so our sign-in starts when we say browser.get this login link. So we go to the login link and then we find the email text field. So this email text field is going to stay the same no matter what email or password we use. But then we're going to put in a different email every time. So we don't want something that's hard-coded. So this is hard-coded because every single time it sends credentials email, it's sending the same credential, it's sending the same email. So this needs to be like a variable. And then this next button will stay the same because to get to the next page, no matter what email and password you're using, the next button's always going to have the same ID and you're going to have to click it. And then same thing with this delay, you'll need this delay, otherwise signing in won't work. It doesn't matter what email or password you use. And then finding this password text field is going to be the same thing every single time, no matter what email or password. But this credentials password is hard coded and needs to be changed to like a variable called password. And then the sign in button and clicking the sign in button, this needs to stay the same. So now we need to make our functions. And with functions, we want to define them first by putting them at the top. So let's make a function called sign in. And let's do this after, actually no, let's just do it here. So def sign in and then open close parentheses, and this is where our parameters will go, but we'll do that after we put our signing code into this function. So then inside of our function, everything needs to stay indented because Python will read it as everything that's indented is part of this sign-in, and everything that's not is not part of that function and is actually part of the main code. So all we have to do now is just copy and paste our sign-in, and now this will sign in using this link, and then now we need to configure some things. So first we need an email variable, and then we need a password variable. And then instead of using this hard-coded email, we're going to use an email passed in when we call this function. So we're going to say send keys email, and then instead of using this hard-coded password, we're going to send keys password. So then it's going to sign in using a different email or a different password depending on how you call sign in. And then another thing we need to add is we need to add a browser variable, because right now it's going to go through this function and be like, what the heck is a browser? So we need to pass this browser in so that way we're using the same browser when we're logging in with an email and password. So now all we have to do to sign in is we're going to say sign in, whoops. We're going to call sign in, and then we're going to first pass in our browser that we created here, and then we're going to put in our initial email and password. So for me, it was credentials, email, and then it was, oh, that was a lot of mistakes. And then credentials, I just do not know how to type today. Credentials, password. So then it'll sign in using this browser, and then it's going to pass in this browser that goes here, and then every single time you use browser in the sign in, it'll be using this browser. And then when we pass in credentials email, this email is going to go here, and then we're going to send that email in as the key, and then we're going to pass in this password, and the password's going to go here, and then we're going to sign in using this password. So this can change every single time, and that's what we want when it comes to a function. This is something that we could recycle. So let's see if this signs in. And what I did down here is I just commented this out so that way we only have to worry about signing in. So let's see if this worked exactly how it did before. I'm going to say Python bing.py, and then signing in, and this is exactly what it was before, nothing new. So this is good because that means we were able to turn our main code, which was before here, into a function. So now we can reuse this. So let's see if we can actually reuse this, and we're going to do this by putting a bunch of accounts in a separate file. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I've made a file called logins.txt, and then in here I put in an email and a password separated by a colon, and I put each email password on a different line. So we want to be able to read this. So first we're going to create, I'm going to delete this first. We're going to create a variable called logins, and then we're going to open the logins.txt file. So open is a built-in function by Python, and it lets us open files, and it returns a file. So first argument, we're going to say logins.txt, so we're going to open logins.txt, and you have to make sure that logins.txt is in the same folder, otherwise it won't be able to find it. Or you can just use the directory to the logins.txt. And then the next variable is going to be r, which just means we're going to read it. And then we can't directly read this file yet, so we need to say read, and it'll give us a string of the file. And then from there we want to split it by each line. And this is \n, and all this means is new line. And backslash just gives n a special function, so this is actually different from this, and this is actually just means new line. And what split does is it'll create an array, and each time there's a new line, it'll create a new element. So the first one is abc@gmail.com, :123, and then there's a new line, so then this is the next element, and then this is the next element, and then this is the next element. So now we have an array, which is something that we've worked with before when we were doing searches, and all we did was use a for each loop. So we're going to say for each login in logins. So for each login, which means it'll go through this first, then it'll go through this in the second time it goes through the loop, and then it'll go through that, then that. So for each login in logins, and then in this indentation, like we saw before, this is part of our for loop. So then we're going to say, actually, you know what? Just so we see what's going on, let's just print out what our login looks like. So each time it prints, it should print out each email and password, and it should print it out on a new line. So let's see if that does as we intend. Oh, okay. So this is just a side effect. Don't worry about it, because we had to set our browser first, so it opened up our browser. But look, it printed out each line. So abc@gmail.com, 123, etc., etc. And then this by accident, which should not be in your code. That was just so I could show you guys. But it'll go through each login. So now we want to split it one more time. And as you can see, there's a colon separating them. So we can split it by colon. So we're going to say info, which is a variable, and we're going to say login, which is each line, and we want to split it by colon. So then this will give us, so the first element inside of info is going to look like this. So it's going to be abc@gmail.com. It's going to be in quotations actually. And then the second element is going to be what's after the colon, and then that's just going to be 123. So this is going to be what each info looks like. And then the info at element 0 is going to be abc@gmail.com, and then the element at index 1 is going to be 123. So index 0 is going to be the email, and then index 1 is going to be the password. So we're going to say, let's just output it and see if we're right, and then we're going to say email, and then we're going to say info 0, which should be the email, and then we're going to say password, and then we're going to say info 1, which should always be the password. So let me also comment this out so that way we're not opening up Chrome every time. And let me save this. Actually, just delete this and save it. And so now let's run it. And look, it was able to separate it, no more colons. And then email is that, password is that, email is that, password is that. So now we can sign in to each account using info 0 and info 1. So info 0 is our password, info 1 is info 0 is our email, info 1 is our password. So we're going to say sign in, and then first element, obviously browser, which we need to uncomment, and then it'll pass in the browser, and then we need to pass in the email, which is going to be info 0, and then we're going to pass in the password, so info 1, and so now it'll sign in using that email and then sign in using that password. And then after that, we also need to sign out before we sign into a new account. So let's see how we're going to sign out. So the first thing we need to do is go to the Bing dashboard. And so we're going to say Bing rewards, just Google it, and here's the dashboard. And then I'm sure we can sign out from our dashboard. And so to sign out, click user image, click sign out. So we're going to use the technique we used before. We're going to inspect it, and then we're going to let Selenium do the dirty work for us. So let me just inspect it one more time. So, all right, so it looks like there's an issue, and I don't see any input tags anywhere, but don't worry. Let's see what happens. Let's improvise a little bit, and let's see what happens when I click this over and over. So in this inspect area, you're seeing that something's changing every single time I'm clicking it. And it seems like it's this class that's triggering this drop-down menu. So let's see what happens if we copy the XPath and then we click this span, and let's just pray and hope that it loads our drop-down. So let's create another definition or a function called sign out, and then we just need our browser because we need to use the same browser to sign out. And then we're going to do browser.find element by XPath, and then that's the XPath, and then we want to click it. And so I know before I was making a new variable and then clicking that variable, but this will mean the same exact thing as creating a variable called image, and then if we did like image.click, oh whoops, no colons, this is Python, and this will set the element to the image, and then it'll click the image. But we can just make this a one-liner actually, and this will actually save us some code in the future, and we can just straight up click it, and this should load our drop-down menu. So let's test this out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say real logins.txt because I actually put my real logins there. But I don't want to show you guys because that would be weird. And then after we sign in, we want to sign out of our browser with this browser. So it's gonna first split it, so then we have the email password, then we're gonna sign in using the first email and the first password, and then we're gonna sign out of our browser by finding this image. And actually before we start, we actually have to get to this page first, my bad. And sorry, I just deleted that because we can get to the dashboard without that. We can just get to the dashboard with this plain old code. So let's, before we even find this XPath, which it won't be able to find, we need to go to that website first. So sorry for doing that out of order. So how sign out is going to work is when you call sign out, it's going to pass in the browser. It's going to go to this website, which is your dashboard. It's going to find that image, and then it's going to click it. So let's see if that goes as intended, works as intended. So we're first going to sign in with the first set of email and password, Then we're going to go to the dashboard. Then we're going to click that user image. Perfect. And all right, so maybe something weird happened. I think it's because it tried signing in again, but yeah. It was able to click that user image. So now the next thing we need to do, oh shit. Let me just do this again so that way we get to the dashboard. All right, I'm just gonna stop this before it go. Oh, my bad. If you want to stop code, just it's Control C, but that was not helpful. All right, so now that we're at this dashboard, don't do anything, don't do anything. All right, so now that we're at this dashboard, we need to click this sign out button. So we're gonna inspect this again, and no more input tags. So this is actually not a problem at all. Whoops, let me just get back there. Bring me back here. All right, so this is an A tag, and very quickly, an A tag is literally a link. So you can definitely click a link. So even though it's not an input tag, an A tag will do just fine. And an A tag is something like when you see like it's blue text and it like turns your cursor into that like weird hand thing. So this is a link, and this is something we can definitely click. So let's copy its XPath. And then from here, after we open the user image, we're going to find element by XPath. And then that's the link to the, that's the XPath to that link. And then we're going to click that again. So it'll first find the image, click it, then it's going to find the browser, find the sign out button, and then click that. So from here, it seems like this should work perfect. So it'll sign in, sign out, sign in, sign out for each account. So actually, there's going to be a problem, but let's just see what happens. So first, it's going to sign in, and then it's going to go to the dashboard, and then let me just focus, and it's going to sign out. Perfect, exactly what we want. But now we have a problem. It says, let's see, email text field. So that's the one giving us an issue. And so what's happening actually is after you click sign out, your page is loading, and actually you most likely what's happening is it's going to this login link as fast as it can because these computers are just ridiculously fast. So after you sign out, it immediately goes to this link. Except the issue is it's probably it's probably still loading the page while you're doing this, and there's some sort of like link conflict or like going to this link conflict. And so what we can do to eliminate the conflict is we can just wait for things to load and then start signing in. So before we go to the sign in link, let's just delay it, and then it'll go to the link and do the sign in as usual. So this should solve that problem, and if you guys are having this problem, this would be the way to solve it. And for my users who know how time.sleep works, this is obviously not the best solution, but it's quick and dirty. But I'll try and cover a better way to use delays in a future episode. But for now, this will do. So let's see if this is able to sign into each account and sign out. So signing in, and then we're going to go to the dashboard, click on the user image, sign out, and then wait, go to the sign in, and then sign into another account, and then dashboard, sign out. Awesome. And then let's do the rest. There's only like 3 or 4. And then we're going to sign out of this one. Oh, hopefully that didn't sign into a different account, but should be fine. And oh shit, I've been suspended, but whatever. So it seems like everything worked, and our code did exactly what we wanted to do. And this is all I have to cover for this episode. And in the next episode, I'm going to show you guys how to make the search a function, and from there, we'll have a more complete Bing rewards bot that can log into many accounts and do searches on each one. Thanks for watching, guys. Sorry if this was a long video, and like and subscribe if you want to get more content from me, and see you in the next video.